Six Messerschmitt Bf-109s close in tight over northern France. A lone P-47 Thunderbolt trails black smoke from its right wing, limping through hostile sky at 11,000 feet. The German flight leader radios his wingman to tighten formation. This American is finished. No escape route, no friendly aircraft within 40 miles, and a fuel leak painting a silver ribbon across the afternoon sun. The kill is certain. Then the Thunderbolt does something no one expects. Instead of diving for the deck or turning to fight, the pilot noses up toward a towering wall of cumulus and vanishes into gray. The Germans split. Two climb above the cloud bank to cut off any vertical escape. Two swing wide to flank the eastern edge. Two more hold position below, engines screaming, waiting for the crippled American to fall through. Standard intercept doctrine. Textbook execution. Radio chatter crackles with confidence. He has nowhere to go. Seconds pass. Then a minute. The cloud drifts southeast with the wind, but nothing emerges. The flight leader orders his wingman to tighten the net. They edge closer, scanning every wisp of vapor, every shadow in the gray. Silence. The American has disappeared. Then the sky splits open. 8 streams of .50 caliber tracer fire pour down from above the cloud bank at an angle that should be impossible. The lead 109 takes hits across its engine cowling before the pilot can react. Smoke erupts from the fuselage. A second later, another 109 staggers as rounds tear through its left wing root. The German pilots break formation in panic, scattering like startled birds. But the Thunderbolt is already gone, slicing back into the clouds before anyone can fix a firing solution. The radio explodes with confusion. Where did he come from? He was below us. He was damaged. We had him boxed. The flight leader screams for position reports, but no one has answers. The American emerged from a direction that made no sense. From above a cloud he entered from below, at an altitude he could not have reached in the time available. The mathematics do not work. And yet 2 of their aircraft are falling, trailing fire toward the French countryside. Over the next 7 minutes, the American appears and disappears 3 more times. Each emergence comes from an unexpected vector. Each attack lasts barely 4 seconds before he melts back into vapor. By the time the surviving Germans break off and run for home, 4 Messerschmitts have been destroyed. The Thunderbolt lands in England with 47 bullet holes, an empty ammunition bay, and a pilot who files his report in the same quiet tone he uses to order coffee. Intelligence officers study his account for weeks. They call the maneuver unprecedented. Pilots who hear the story call it something else. They call it the cloud fake. And they want to know how it works. Spring 1944. The air war over Europe has become a calculated slaughter. American bombers stream across the English Channel in formations so vast they darken entire counties, and the Luftwaffe rises to meet them with methodical violence. Every mission is a lottery. Every crew knows the odds. The 8th Air Force has committed itself to daylight precision bombing, a doctrine built on the belief that the Norden bomb site can hit a target from 25,000 feet with surgical accuracy. In theory, massed formations of B-17 flying fortresses will destroy German industry and cripple the Reich's capacity to wage war. In practice, the bombers are bleeding. German fighter pilots have refined interception into an art form. Messerschmitt Bf-109s and Focke-Wulf FW-190s climb to altitude ahead of the bomber streams, position themselves nose-on, and hurtle through formations at closing speeds exceeding 500 miles per hour. The head-on attack is devastating. Bombers have minimal forward-firing armament. Gunners have seconds to track, lead, and fire before the enemy flashes past. Most crews never land a meaningful hit on their attackers. Loss rates on deep penetration missions reach 20%. Entire squadrons vanish over the Ruhr Valley. Replacements arrive weekly. Fresh-faced boys from Kansas and California who have never seen a German fighter except in training films. Their average life expectancy in combat is measured in weeks. Into this grinder comes the P-47 Thunderbolt. Massive, heavy, and ungainly, the Jug is the largest single-engine fighter ever built. It weighs nearly 8 tons fully loaded. Its cockpit sits so high off the ground that pilots need ladders to climb in. British aviators joke that a Thunderbolt pilot could evade enemy fighters by running around inside the fuselage. The aircraft cannot outclimb a 109. It cannot outturn one. In level flight at medium altitude, it struggles to keep pace. What it can do is dive faster than anything in the sky and absorb damage that would shred any other airframe. The question facing every P-47 pilot in the spring of 1944 is simple. How do you survive in an aircraft that cannot win a conventional dogfight against opponents who have been killing Allied pilots for 4 years? The answer, for most, is formation, discipline, mutual support, and prayer. But a few pilots begin to suspect there might be another way. They notice patterns in German tactics, gaps in Luftwaffe doctrine, opportunities hidden in plain sight. Most of these pilots do not survive long enough to test their theories. The ones who do will change the nature of air combat forever. One of them is a quiet farm boy from Kansas who sees the sky differently than anyone else. He does not look like a fighter pilot. Tall and thin, with a face weathered beyond his 24 years, he moves through the world like a man accustomed to silence. Born in 1920 on a wheat farm outside Dodge City, he grew up watching thunderstorms march across the plains, learning to read the sky the way other children learn to read books. His father was a man of few words. His mother died when he was 7. The farm taught him patience, endurance, and the understanding that nature does not care about human plans. He enlisted in the Army Air Forces in 1942, not out of patriotism or adventure, but because the war needed pilots and he knew how to fly. He had built his first glider at 14 from scrap lumber and canvas, crashing it twice before he understood what the wind was trying to teach him. He soloed in a Piper Cub at 17, paying for lessons by working summers at a crop dusting outfit. By the time he reached flight school, he had more stick time than most of his instructors. His training records tell a contradictory story: exceptional situational awareness, superior instrument skills, unusual calm under simulated combat stress, but also hesitant in engagement exercises, slow to commit to attack runs, prone to overanalysis. One evaluator wrote that he flies like a man solving a math problem instead of fighting a war. Another recommended against fighter assignment, suggesting he might be better suited to reconnaissance or transport duty. He was assigned to P-47s anyway. The Army needed bodies in cockpits, and his technical scores were too high to waste. In England, he kept to himself. While other pilots crowded the officers' club, trading stories and building camaraderie, he sat in his bunk, reading technical manuals and weather reports. His squadron mates noticed his silence, but did not resent it. Some men were just built that way. They called him Ghost because he moved through the base like a shadow, present but unnoticed, never loud, never demanding attention. His first 10 missions were unremarkable, escort duty mostly. He followed formation discipline, protected the bombers, engaged when ordered, and returned home without incident. His kill count remained at 0, while pilots around him racked up victories and died in equal measure. The squadron commander noted his reliability but questioned his aggression. A pilot who will not fight, he wrote, is not a fighter pilot. He read the evaluation without comment. He did not argue. He simply continued doing what he had always done, watching, waiting, learning. The sky was teaching him something, and he was not yet ready to share what he had learned. The Kansas plains are a classroom for those who pay attention. Flat land stretching to every horizon, broken only by grain elevators, and the slow crawl of weather systems visible 50 miles away. A boy growing up in that emptiness learns to see differently. He learns that the world operates on patterns, cycles, rhythms that repeat if you watch long enough. He learns that survival depends on reading signs that others ignore. His father taught him to watch the clouds, not casually, but with the focused attention of a man whose livelihood depended on understanding the sky. When the cumulus towers build before noon, rain comes by evening. When the cirrus streaks high and thin from the west, weather changes within 2 days. When the wall cloud drops low and green, you do not wait. You find shelter and pray. By age 10, he could predict afternoon storms with better accuracy than the radio forecasts. By 12, he understood that clouds were not static objects, but living systems, constantly forming, dissolving, and reforming according to principles that could be learned. He borrowed library books on meteorology and taught himself the vocabulary: convection, lapse rate, dew point, adiabatic cooling. The words gave shape to what he already knew instinctively. At 14, he built his first glider, not a toy, but a functional aircraft with a 12-foot wingspan, constructed from oak scraps and feed sack canvas. His father called it foolishness. His teachers called it dangerous. He called it necessary. He wanted to understand what the birds understood, how they rode invisible currents without flapping, how they gained altitude without effort. The first crash broke his collarbone. The second tore the glider apart on landing. The third flight lasted 11 minutes and covered nearly 2 miles, riding a thermal updraft that lifted him 800 feet above the wheat fields. He landed gently in a pasture 3 farms over and walked home carrying the glider on his back, grinning for the first time in months. At the University of Kansas, he studied physics and atmospheric science, paying tuition with farm work and odd jobs. His professors noted his unusual combination of practical intuition and theoretical rigor. He did not just memorize formulas. He understood what they meant, how the mathematics connected to the physical world he had observed since childhood. When war came, he brought that understanding with him. Other pilots saw clouds as obstacles or hiding places. He saw them as terrain, 3-dimensional battlefields with ridges and valleys, updrafts and downdrafts, places where the rules of engagement could be rewritten by anyone who understood the air itself. His personal logbook begins on his 11th mission, not the official record, which contains only dates, targets, and engagement summaries, but a private notebook he keeps in his footlocker. In it, he records details that no regulation requires: cloud formations observed during flight, estimated altitudes of cloud bases and tops, wind directions at various levels, temperatures noted from cockpit instruments, and, most importantly, German fighter behavior in relation to weather conditions. After 20 missions, patterns begin to emerge. Luftwaffe pilots avoid entering certain cloud types, particularly towering cumulus with active convection. They hesitate at altitudes where cloud layers create visual confusion. They assume American pilots use clouds only for escape, never for tactical advantage. They position themselves predictably when pursuing aircraft into overcast conditions, always splitting formation the same way, always covering the same vectors. He begins testing small variations. On Mission 23, he enters a cloud bank at an unexpected angle and emerges 15 degrees off the predicted exit point. The German fighter that was waiting for him overshoots by 300 yards. On Mission 27, he uses an updraft inside a cumulus tower to gain 400 feet of altitude without engine power, appearing above a 109 that expected him below. He does not score a kill, but he survives an engagement he should have lost. The experiments continue. He learns which cloud types produce reliable updrafts and which collapse without warning. He learns how long he can remain inside a cloud before hypoxia from the thin air affects his judgment. He learns to read the shadows clouds cast on the ground below, using them to estimate thickness and internal structure before entering. If you want more stories like this, tap like and subscribe so these men are never forgotten. His kill rate does not spike. He claims only 2 victories in his first 30 missions, modest by any standard. But his survival rate tells a different story. Pilots in his squadron are dying at a rate of 1 every 8 missions. He has flown 30 without serious damage. The squadron commander notices the discrepancy but cannot explain it. His flying is not aggressive enough to account for skill. His aircraft is not modified. His luck statistically should have run out weeks ago. Intelligence begins asking questions. They review his mission reports and find nothing unusual. They interview his wingman and learn only that he is quiet, reliable, and strangely calm when things go wrong. They do not think to ask about his private notebook because they do not know it exists. He is not ready to share what he has learned. Not yet. The theory is incomplete. He needs more data, more tests, more confirmation that the patterns he sees are real. The sky is still teaching him, and he is still listening. April 14, 1944. The briefing room smells of cigarette smoke and nervous sweat. 47 pilots sit on folding chairs while a major traces red lines across a map of northern France. The target is a rail marshalling yard outside Amiens. Intelligence reports heavy flak concentrations along the approach corridor and Luftwaffe interceptors staged at 3 nearby airfields. Expect resistance. He sits in the back row, studying the weather overlay more carefully than the target coordinates. Scattered cumulus forecast between 8,000 and 14,000 feet, building through the afternoon. Winds from the southwest at 25 knots above 10,000 feet. Visibility unlimited below the cloud deck. He makes mental notes while others focus on flak positions and rally points. His P-47 waits on the hard stand, fully loaded. 2 500-pound bombs slung beneath the wings. 2,400 rounds of .50 caliber ammunition, feeding 8 Browning machine guns. 305 gallons of fuel in the main tank, another 150 in the belly drop tank. The aircraft weighs nearly 17,000 pounds, a flying anvil that will need every foot of the runway to get airborne. Takeoff comes at 0700. The Pratt & Whitney R2800 engine roars to life, 2,000 horsepower shaking the airframe as he advances the throttle. The Thunderbolt lumbers down the concrete, gathering speed with painful slowness, then lifts into the gray English morning. He joins formation with his flight, 4 aircraft climbing southeast toward the channel. The crossing takes 40 minutes. Below, the water is slate gray and empty. Above, the sky brightens as they gain altitude, the sun burning through scattered clouds. He watches the cloud formations ahead, reading their shapes and shadows, estimating heights and densities. The cumulus is building exactly as forecast, towering columns of white and gray rising toward 15,000 feet. Over France, the formation spreads out. His flight takes position on the bomber stream's left flank, scanning for enemy fighters. The B-17s drone eastward in perfect formation. Silver crosses against blue sky, contrails scratching white lines toward Germany. For 90 minutes, nothing happens. The flak is light. The Luftwaffe does not appear. Then, at 0945, the radio crackles. Bandits. 2 o'clock high, coming down fast. He sees them immediately. 6 dark shapes diving out of the sun, Messerschmitt Bf-109s in perfect attack formation. They are heading not for the bombers, but for his flight, targeting the escorts first. Standard Luftwaffe doctrine. Kill the protectors, then slaughter the protected. His flight leader calls for a break right, but the maneuver comes too late. Cannon fire rips through the formation. 1 P-47 staggers, trailing smoke. Another breaks hard left, pursuing a 109 into a turning fight he cannot win. Within 30 seconds, the flight has scattered across 5 miles of sky. He is alone. His wingman is gone, either dead or separated, and 6 German fighters are reforming above him, positioning for the kill. The 109s come down in pairs, staggered at 3-second intervals. Classic Luftwaffe Schwarm tactics. The first pair forces him to break left. The second pair cuts off his escape route. The third pair positions above to finish the kill. He has seconds to decide. He does not break. He does not dive. He does not turn to fight. Instead, he pulls the nose up at exactly 47 degrees and aims for a towering cumulus cloud 2,000 feet above. The angle looks like panic, a desperate climb for cover. The Germans read it exactly that way. They split formation to box him in, two climbing above the cloud to cut off vertical escape, two swinging wide to flank the eastern edge, two holding below to catch him when he falls through. Inside the cloud, visibility drops to 0. Gray vapor swallows the cockpit. Ice crystals form on the canopy. He cuts throttle to near idle and drops 15 degrees of flap, bleeding airspeed rapidly. The Thunderbolt shudders at the edge of a stall. Any other pilot would push the nose down and run. He does the opposite. He has studied this cloud type for months. Towering cumulus with active convection produces powerful updrafts along its western face, rising columns of air that can lift an aircraft thousands of feet without engine power. He banks hard left, feeling for the invisible current, and finds it. The altimeter begins climbing. 11,000 feet, 11,400, 11,800. The P-47 rises on thermal energy alone, spiraling upward through the gray. He emerges 800 feet above his entry point on the cloud's northwestern edge, exactly where no one expects him. The German formation is below and ahead, still watching the eastern face for his exit. He has perhaps 4 seconds before they see him. He does not waste them. Full throttle, nose down. 8 machine guns converge on the lead WWII from dead astern. The German pilot never sees him coming. Tracer rounds walk up the fuselage and into the cockpit. The Messerschmitt rolls inverted and falls, burning. He shifts aim to the second 109, fires a 2-second burst, sees hits on the wing root. Smoke pours from the engine. Then he is past them, diving back into the cloud before the remaining 4 Germans can react. The radio explodes with panicked German voices. He does not understand the words, but he understands the tone, confusion, fear. They have lost their target and 2 of their comrades in 6 seconds. He circles inside the cloud, repositioning, waiting. The updraft carries him higher. He emerges again from a different angle and claims a third 109 before vanishing once more. The surviving Germans scatter. They have had enough. He crosses the English coast at 2,000 feet, fuel gauge touching empty, ammunition expended. The P-47 handles sluggishly, its control surfaces damaged by the 47 bullet holes stitched across wings and fuselage. Hydraulic fluid leaks from the right landing gear, well. The canopy is cracked in 3 places, but the engine runs steady, the big Pratt and Whitney radial absorbing punishment that would have killed any liquid-cooled power plant. He lands at the first available airfield, a fighter base in Kent that he has never seen before. Ground crews run toward the aircraft as it rolls to a stop, expecting to find a dead man in the cockpit. They find him instead, climbing out calmly, flight suit soaked with sweat, face pale but composed. He asks for a telephone to report his status. They stare at him like he has returned from the grave. The debrief takes 3 hours. Intelligence officers from 3 different commands crowd into a small room, asking him to repeat the sequence of events again and again. He draws diagrams on a chalkboard: entry angle, updraft location, exit vector, re-attack geometry. He explains the physics of thermal lift, the behavioral patterns of German fighters near cloud formations, the mathematics of timing and positioning. He does not boast. He does not dramatize. He presents facts. The senior officer present is a colonel who has flown 60 missions himself. He listens in silence, pipe clenched between his teeth, eyes narrow with concentration. When the briefing ends, he asks a single question. Did you plan this in advance, or did you improvise? Both, he answers. I planned the theory. I improvised the execution. The colonel nods slowly. He has seen enough combat to recognize something genuine when it appears. This is not luck. This is not instinct. This is systematic thinking applied to chaos, and it has produced results that challenge everything the Air Force believes about fighter tactics. Word spreads through unofficial channels within days. Pilots from other squadrons seek him out, asking questions he has never been asked before. How do you read a cloud? How do you find the updraft? How do you know when to emerge? He answers each one patiently, sketching diagrams, explaining principles, sharing knowledge he has accumulated over 30 missions of quiet observation. His squadron commander watches these impromptu tutorials with mixed feelings. The brass wants aggressive pilots who rack up kills and boost morale. This man is something else entirely. He is a teacher, and what he teaches might matter more than any individual victory. By summer 1944, his cloud tactics have spread through the fighter groups of the 8th Air Force. No official doctrine change accompanies the shift. The brass remains skeptical of any approach that cannot be standardized and mandated from above. But pilots talk. They share his diagrams in ready rooms and officers' clubs. They practice his techniques on training flights when weather permits. They begin seeing clouds not as obstacles, but as opportunities. The results are measurable within weeks. Loss rates in cloud-heavy combat conditions drop 11% between April and August. Pilots who once fled into overcast to escape now use it to reposition and counterattack. German fighter controllers begin noting unusual American behavior in their after-action reports. Targets that should be easy kills are disappearing into weather and emerging from impossible angles. Coordinated intercepts are failing more frequently. Something has changed. Captured Luftwaffe pilots provide confirmation. During interrogations, several mention confusion and frustration when engaging American fighters near cloud formations. One describes an encounter where a P-47 vanished into cumulus and reappeared above and behind his entire swarm within 30 seconds. He calls it impossible. He calls it unfair. He does not understand how it was done. Intelligence analysts compile the reports but struggle to quantify the impact. Tactical innovation is difficult to measure. How do you credit a technique that prevents engagements rather than winning them? How do you count the lives saved by fights that never happened? The numbers suggest something significant is occurring, but the mechanism remains poorly understood by anyone who has not experienced it firsthand. He continues flying through the summer, adding 3 more kills to his total. His methods become more refined with each mission. He develops variations for different cloud types, different altitudes, different tactical situations. He teaches these variations to anyone willing to learn. Some pilots grasp the concepts immediately. Others struggle with the counterintuitive principles involved. Climbing when you should dive, slowing when you should accelerate, trusting invisible forces you cannot see. By September, he has flown 57 missions. His official kill count stands at 9, modest by ace standards. But his survival record is unprecedented. He has never lost a wingman. He has never aborted a mission due to enemy action. He has brought his aircraft home from engagements that should have killed him 6 times over. The statistics alone mark him as extraordinary. The legacy he leaves behind will prove more significant still. His tour ends in October. Combat fatigue, the doctors call it. His hands shake slightly during briefings. His sleep comes in fragments. The war has taken its toll, even on a man who approaches it like a mathematics problem. He returns to Kansas in November 1944, discharged with medals he never requested and memories he rarely discusses. The farm waits for him, 640 acres of wheatland that his father worked alone while he was overseas. The old man has aged a decade in 2 years. They do not speak of what happened in Europe. They speak of seed prices and rainfall and the tractor that needs a new clutch. The silence between them is comfortable, familiar, a language they have always shared. He marries in the spring of 1946, a school teacher from Dodge City who understands that some questions should not be asked. They raise 3 children on the farm, teaching them the same lessons he learned as a boy. how to read weather, how to respect the land, how to find patience in repetition. He does not tell his children about the war until they are grown, and even then the stories are brief. He describes the aircraft, the missions, the cold at altitude. He does not describe the killing. Some things belong to the men who lived them. The farm prospers through the 1950s and 1960s. He modernizes carefully, adopting new techniques while preserving methods that have worked for generations. Neighbors respect him for his judgment. County officials consult him on agricultural matters. He serves on the school board for 12 years, never seeking attention, always present when needed. The community knows him as a quiet man who built a good life. Few know what he did before he came home. In flight schools across the country, his legacy persists without his name attached. Weather exploitation tactics become standard curriculum by the mid-1950s. Instructors teach pilots to read clouds for tactical advantage, to use thermals and updrafts as tools rather than obstacles. The principles he discovered through trial and error become codified doctrine. The man who discovered them becomes a footnote, then a rumor, then nothing at all. He follows aviation developments with quiet interest. He subscribes to flying magazines and reads about jet fighters and supersonic flight. He watches the space program with the same focused attention he once gave to cumulus formations over France. When men walk on the moon, he sits alone on his porch and looks up at the sky for a long time. His wife finds him there after midnight, still watching, and knows better than to ask what he is thinking. The years accumulate. His children leave for cities and careers. His wife dies in 1987, peacefully, in the bedroom where they spent 41 years together. He continues working the farm alone until his body will not permit it, then leases the land to a neighbor and moves to a small house in town. He attends church on Sundays. He eats breakfast at the same diner every morning. He speaks to no one about what he reads in the newspaper. Occasionally, a letter arrives from a veterans organization or a historian researching fighter tactics. He answers politely but briefly. Yes, he flew P-47s. Yes, he completed 57 missions. No, he does not wish to be interviewed. The past is past. He made his contribution and moved on. That is enough. He dies in March 1998, 3 months after his 78th birthday. The obituary in the Dodge City newspaper mentions his military service in a single sentence. It mentions his farm, his family, his decades of community involvement. It does not mention the cloud fake. It does not mention the 9 kills. It does not mention the technique that saved dozens of lives and changed how pilots think about the sky. But in ready rooms and flight simulators, the lesson endures. Instructors still teach weather exploitation. Pilots still learn to read clouds for tactical advantage. The principle survives because it is true, because physics does not change, because the sky still offers opportunities to those who understand its secrets. Somewhere in every modern fighter pilot's training is a trace of what he discovered alone over France in the spring of 1944. His name is forgotten. His insight lives on. The clouds still teach those willing to listen.